Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about The Equalizer, Season 3, Episode 12. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Very interesting case that finds its way to Robin, and it turns out it's a guy who has amnesia, but the problem is, not only does he not remember anything, he has a gun on him, and it seems like the gun might have been fired recently, and now it's all about unraveling who this guy is, because obviously for Robin, it's like, hey, I'm gonna look into this. If you're a good guy, then I can't let you be out there on your own, because obviously it must mean someone's after you. But if you're a bad guy, I definitely can't let you out there on the streets. But if I determine that you're a bad guy, and he's like, hey, it's okay, do whatever you need to do, but for him, it's like the most concerning thing is not knowing. He's like, the basic stuff, I know what to do, but the fact is that I just don't know who I am, and that's the scariest thing. So turns out his name's Roy. At least they initially think his name is Roy, because they were finally able to run his prints and everything. But Harry kind of quickly figures out, yeah, there's something up with his like bio and stuff. I was like, immediately my head was like, you don't think he's like I don't think he was faking the amnesia, but I was like, could he secretly be like a CIA agent? Like, because that's like a kind of like, well, I was about to say it's like, oh, kind of like an action-y movie thing. I'm like, yeah, you idiot. The Bourne movies. That was the whole point. Was like, yeah, the Bourne Identity. Well, Bourne Identity. What was it? Was it Supremacy and Ultimatum? And then there was just Jason Bourne. There was also the one with Jeremy Renner, the fourth one. I've never seen 4 and 5. I've seen 1, 2, and 3. It's been a while though. But yeah, it's like, yeah, I was thinking maybe some Jason Bourne type of thing of like, yeah, you're a spy, or you have like the CIA, like this is who you are, you just don't remember, or something like that. Because there's this CIA angle to the show we have not circled back to in quite a while, that I'm curious when that's going to start kicking up again, but that might not be that might be season finale stuff, or at least like building towards the season finale. So that might not be like even later in the season type of thing, because like that storyline hasn't popped up in a while. Oh god, Donald Logue's character, when he like confronted Robin about Bishop's death and stuff like that, that was a while back, because that was before the break and stuff. So that had to be, what was that, episode like 5 or 6, maybe? I definitely don't. I don't believe it was episode 7, so it had to be like 5 or 6. If I remember, so obviously it's been like a while now. So I'm curious when we would circle back to this. So that's why I was almost wondering if there'd be some correlation in here. That's why I was thinking like maybe Roy, quote unquote, Roy would be a secret agent or something. But then obviously things started spinning out from there when it's like, hey, someone tries to take a shot at Roy. I think maybe this also speaks to Roy's character, is that like when something went down, like, oh, when the shots were firing, like he was trying to block Robin, but Robin's almost like, get out of the way, I got you, I'm the one that's going to protect you. So I think it shows that, obviously he's a very chivalrous person to some extent. It's like, oh, cool, luckily we're both okay. But I think that they didn't really focus on it too much, but I think that kind of speaks volumes that he was trying to like, I don't know if that was just him trying to get out, like, but it felt like that was him trying to like make sure she was okay. It seemed like that was him trying to like I said, kind of protect her, like some instinct inside of him was like, oh, like I need to, I should be, protective. And I think when we find out more about Roy, or rather Eric, as we find out later on, I think it probably makes sense, like maybe like the parental instinct of just wanting to protect somebody like kicked in, especially knowing and learning what his ultimate motivation is. But we'll kind of get to that. But I love that he's having to wear Harry's clothes, and they're weird. And it's like, oh, this sweater that you're wearing, it's like, yeah, it's super expensive because it's made by this like Japanese artist or whatever that no one knows for sure if they exist. And he's like, no, stop stretching it. And he's like, oh, I got this tattoo, maybe it means something. And also like when he showed off his chest, there's missing hair, and it's like, oh, that's a weird manscaping situation you got going on there. Like, what's up with that? So, and I do love that we circle back to like, no, it is an important clue. So I think that is so interesting. Everything matters in the end, because they first went to a club that Mel recognized. A lady saw him, and I love that she tried to run away. Mel's like, please stop, because that looks like that's hurting, like you just running in those hills. It's like seeing someone running hills, you're just like, ugh. It kind of reminds you of like when you see like I'm sure there's been examples of it, but there's one particular one example of like a model doing a runway thing, and her ankles are twisting everywhere. It's just like, it makes me like, it makes my skin crawl thinking about, because I'm like, oh, I can't imagine running in hills. Jesus, bro. And it was just, and she swung her purse up. Mel grabbed it. She's like, hey, like, lighten up, lady. She's like, this is like Louis Vuitton or something like that. And she's like, is it really? And it's like, well, no, it's a really good knockoff though, at the very least. But she remembers Eric, and she was like, oh, Eric was trying to get my attention. But Eric remembers, was like, no, you were asking me to marry. She's like, well, a girl had to, take her shot. And then later on, being like, kind of winkingly call me. He's like, yeah, sadly, that's not going to happen. I was like, oh, that's sweet of you. But it's like, yeah, he's taken. He's got a girlfriend back home, as we find out later on. But once again, everything kind of unraveling when they go to his hotel room. There's blood, and it's like, geez, did I kill someone? Is this who I am? Could I be some bad guy? And it's like, Robin doesn't believe he is. Like, Robin's got this gun instinct. They're like, no, I think you're a good guy, that there might be more to this situation. So they end up going to where he got the tattoo, but the place is closed down because I think because of the date and everything. It's probably like he got this a while back. Because initially he's from Michigan, but why is he all the way here? Why is he here in New York? And he goes back to a house, and it turns out it's his childhood home. And we find out there was a murder there. It was his dad's murder, and it's like, that's what he came back to town for. His dad was killed, and he went to get revenge on the guy who killed him, because it turns out Eric, the reason why he's Roy is because he's in witness protection, because he's the witness to a guy committing a crime. That guy got out of prison on a technicality because of like it was a mess up in the chain of evidence. He got out, he killed Roy's dad and cut out his tongue to send a message on Roy on Eric for snitching. And that's what that's the sad thing. At the moment he remembered his father is when Mel had to tell him the sad news of, your dad died. And so Eric's there, like, looking through everything, especially because it's like, right, as you're remembering everything, like, his mom died for many years back, so now also his dad's gone, and it's like, and especially, like, when you had no memory, and now all this is flooding back to you, but you also have to be like, all these memories are nice coming back, but it's also it's like a 1-2 punch, because it's like, you're remembering, but you're also having the knowledge of, this person I just remembered is gone. Oh, I'm remembering my mom. She died years ago. Oh, I'm remembering my dad who wasn't just died, got murdered. Especially because on some level now, knowing like, right, you were in witness protection because your dad got murdered because of you. It was someone trying to get payback at you for, snitching on them. And it's just like, oh, that sucks so much, dude. But that's what this whole situation's been about. So ultimately, they were able to catch the guy. He tried to roll up on Eric's place because they had an eye on Eric's place. And the moment the cop was called away, I was like, oh boy. But the fact is that, like, Eric wasn't immediately, like, the guy didn't run into Eric immediately. I'm like, oh, Eric, this must be part of the play or something. Like, they must be setting you up. And I was kind of expecting, because the last time we saw Eric, he had the bat in his hand. I was like, oh, he about to go full Negan on you, but he didn't. Obviously, he was never going to go full Negan, but I thought he was going full swing ahead like a Negan situation. But, yeah, it was Harry that was there, and Robin, like, snuck up on the guy and was like, right, let's you're done, you're caught. And Eric wanted to kill the guy because he's like, you killed my dad. But Harry was like, hey, when we were trying to figure out who you are here, this is your girlfriend and you have a son. That tattoo you got signifies the day your son was born. So you have a family, you have people who love you, who are waiting for you. So don't toss away your life going after this guy. He deserves to, like, rot in prison. And this is his third strike, so no getting out of this for him. He's going away for a very, very long time. So the whole thing was, once again, like, they made a point last episode, like, right, we're going to be a team in this whole situation. So Dante's the one that called the cop away just to kind of draw him in so he would come and try and because they knew he would try and come and kill Eric himself. He's the one that killed Eric's dad. I'd also skipped over a step where, like, Eric ended up, the reason why he was kind of distracted at Sanctuary 57 or whatever, the club, is because he saw the bad guy's brother and ended up going after him and wanted him to draw his brother out, and that ended up in an exchange where he ended up getting shot. Eric patched him up and locked him in a trunk. It turns out the missing hair on Eric's chest is from a wire. It's like, oh, that was dumb of him, but hey, the guy's got cojones. It makes sense considering, like, hey, he was motivated to get justice, more so revenge for his father. So, but it's like, yeah, that's when everything kind of went sideways, and he hid in the dumpster, but he hit his head at that moment and didn't remember anything. But now, by the end of the episode, he's got all his memories back, and he's going to obviously go home, and he's got a life waiting for him. and obviously, thanking Robin and all of them, specifically Robin, for her not giving up on him, even when he was like not sure if he was a good guy or not. She's the one that kind of stayed steadfast in her belief that he was a good guy. She trusted her instincts, especially everything that Robin's kind of dealing with right now. Once again, it's like she still has nightmares about that aspect of like her life, personal and professional life, bleeding together, because her nightmare was her getting tortured. I was like, is this really happening? Or is it, I was like, the way it was headed, I was like, no, it's gotta be a nightmare. And the person on the other side of the mask and everything, the torturer, ended up being herself. It's like, a metaphor for, hey, my family's going to be in, because even Harry said, like, hey, you have to pay attention to the dreams. Like, they're trying to tell you something maybe you missed. And maybe it's because, like, maybe kind of implying that Robin has a blind spot and not realizing what's going to happen with her personal and professional life blurring together. Or, like, there might be something she's missing. Or maybe it's just her conscience, like, manifesting her as the greatest danger to her family. Maybe more so, once again, her past coming back to haunt her like it did before. I don't know. It's hard to say what that all really represents. So we'll have to wait to see. Maybe we'll get a little more clarity on that going forward. But that pushed Robin to like try and get Delilah not just training with Mel, but once again to like, hey, I'll take over some of your training too. Got to like sharpen your instincts and your movements. Kind of once again work on the fundamentals. So Dante hooks her up at Manny's gym, and Manny's got her kind of doing like this circling thing, which it definitely has like that Mr. Miyagi wax on, wax off type of feel to it. So she wants immediate results, but as Vi says, it's like, right, you take a shortcut, you'll get cut short in the long run. So. And she ends up meeting a fellow boxer there, Jackson, which you're like, okay, I see the sparks immediately flying. But yeah, Jackson's, trying to get to like a lower class, like a Olympics type of situation when it comes to boxing. For him, it's like, obviously this is kind of his, what he wants to do, what he's aiming for, but he's kind of caught in this complicated spot because he has to work for some people. It's like, yo, drop some money off and stuff like that. It's some shady stuff, but it's like, yeah, it's easy, quick money that he needs on the side to pay for the gym, to be able to go to, get a good equipment and stuff. But Delilah saying, basically gave him the same advice Vi had given her. And it's like, right, I won't say anything to Manny, but maybe you should. And ultimately he does. And the guy steps to Manny later on when Manny was like, yo, like, my place is kind of a sanctuary. No business is done here, so skedaddle. And the guy's like, oh yeah, it sounds like a very old school thing, my bro. It's like, I guess it's like Manny's probably got his connection in the neighborhood of like, people know it's like, yo, that's Manny. You don't mess with Manny. But it's like, oh, you knew around here. I don't know you. So you must be a new blood in this, not knowing like how this whole thing works. Like his place is kind of like Switzerland. I'd actually love. I was about to go on a diatribe. I'm not going to. It's not worth it. Either way, I love that the guy tried to. I was like, oh please. I was like, please step to Manny so like Manny can like hit you. And Manny gives him the 2-piece. Seemed like those were liver shots too. Like boom, boom, and it's like, oh, you want some more? And he's like, oh, don't worry, this ain't over. Which you definitely tell he's probably going to roll deep. I don't know. It might be a thing of some OGs might put him in his place. Like, he might try to step to Manny and maybe some stuff pops off, but maybe some OGs kind of put him in his place because it's like, yo, you don't mess with Manny. Manny's like type of the neighborhood. Like, we as the OGs know, but that's also a larger conversation where it's like, OGs know how to move of like, yo, there's just certain rules to this game, whereas new bloods are just kind of like, and just new bloods is in youngins, as I'm trying to say, like young blood type of thing of like, hey, they, it's a different beast of like, in the world of like young kids kind of like acting like they've got nothing to lose. They're very hot-headed. They're ready to pop off at any moment versus like an OG who knows, like recognizes like, yo, like I've been in this game for a while. I know it better than you. So I could definitely see a storyline like that potentially coming up to the surface because of that. So we'll see what happens. And the sad thing is, Delilah being there means like she will be caught in the crosshairs of some of that. I mean, she's already found herself in some dangerous situations, but it's like, this wasn't even like this is directly connected to Robin. It's just like, yeah, this place she went to, some people involved there, like some stuff, but I think Delilah might, if it does turn to that, Delilah might feel like, no, I can do something to help out here, especially if she's going to be at the gym periodically. So I know. We'll ultimately have to wait to see where that story ultimately ends up taking us. Obviously, like her and once again Jackson have kind of really hit it off, and he appreciates her convincing him to talk to Manny about it because it all worked out in the end. So I'm very, very interested to ultimately see where all that, along with everything else, ultimately ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. I am almost caught up. I've only got one more episode because I don't think there's an episode. Because I don't know when this is going to go up. I might wait till Saturday to put this up or Sunday. I don't know. But I know, like, either way, after episode 13, there's not an episode this coming week. The next episode is like a week afterwards. I am going to be caught up before then, so. But either way, tangents and all that aside, that's really all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.